Gildan Media, a division of Recorded Books, presents Communication Essentials for Dummies by Elizabeth Kuhnke. Narrated by Siiri Scott. Publisher's note: this audiobook has bonus material. Please contact whomever you purchased this audiobook from to request the material. Introduction. Make no mistake, your ability to communicate with clarity, courage, and commitment is your #1 key to success at work and in your personal life. No matter how innovative your ideas, how sincere your feelings, or how passionate your beliefs, if you fail to connect with other people and communicate in a way that persuades, inspires, or motivates them, your efforts are going to be in vain. You're never not communicating. Whether you're in a deep sleep, in a heated debate with a colleague, or in a text-a-thon with a friend, in today's world of 24/7 communication, you're always sending and receiving messages. Some people are outstanding communicators, listening for understanding, in addition to conveying their own clear intentions, whereas others struggle to connect with their own message and with other people. Great communication leads to understanding, intimacy, and mutual appreciation. The good news is that you can develop and successfully apply communication skills as long as you're willing to commit to the process and practice. As my father used to say, communication works for those who work at it. When you're delivering a message, make sure that your intention is clear and your delivery is consistent with your message. Your aim is to connect with the people you're engaging with in order to achieve mutually satisfying goals and objectives. About this book. As an American, married to a German, living in England and working with multicultural teams and individuals around the globe, I'm very aware of the influence of culture, including gender, race, and nationality, on communication. Although I devote one chapter specifically to communicating across cultures, my primary focus in this book is on Western communication practices. I've been selective in what I've chosen to include, with my aim being to offer you ways of communicating to enhance your personal and business relationships. I explain how your attitude impacts on the content and delivery of your message. I describe how treating others with respect and establishing rapport increases your chances of creating clear and compelling communication. I show you how you can develop productive, profitable, and positive relationships by listening with an open mind, being certain about the messages you want to convey, and being prepared for challenging interactions. When you support the message you convey through words with body language and voice, you increase your chances of communicating successfully. Whether you're writing the message, speaking face-to-face, or using the various forms of communication technology, this book encourages you to listen to what others have to say, treat everyone with respect, maintain a clear intention about what you want to express, and convey your message in a way the receiver can understand. Foolish assumptions. Although making assumptions can lead to misunderstandings, I set out mine here for clarity. In this book, I assume that you are interested in communication skills and want to know a bit about the subject. Want to improve the way you communicate at work? Are willing to reflect on what you hear and put into practice the suggestions I offer. Expect the best of yourself and others. Icons used in this book. For sharpening your thinking and focusing your attention, I use the following icons. Anecdote. This icon highlights relevant stories about family members, friends, clients, colleagues, or just people I've observed. I hope they entertain and enlighten you about the joys and sorrows inherent in communication. Business savvy. Here's a chance for you to view communication from a business perspective. By putting communication into a business context, I help you to see where you can keep doing what you're doing or perhaps make a few helpful changes. Remember, this symbol underscores a valuable point to keep in mind. Tip. This icon indicates practical and immediate remedies for honing your communication skills. Try this. Here, you can have a go at putting theory into practice. I've designed these exercises to enhance your skills and turn you into a first-rate communicator. Warning. Everyone makes mistakes from time to time, but if you take note of the common errors that I place beside this icon, you can steer clear of the worst. Other people have made these mistakes so that you don't need to. Where to go from here. Each chapter in this book addresses a specific aspect of communication, from improving your listening skills to communicating efficiently through technology, from appreciating different styles of communicating to establishing how to reach your communication goals. Although I've designed all the information to support you in being a top-flight communicator, not everything is going to be pertinent to your specific requirements or interests. So, you can listen to this book in any order that pleases you and in your own time, what, when, and where you want. If you're interested in dealing with particular tricky situations and behavior, listen to Chapter 8. To discover the important impact of your attitude on communication, have a look at Chapter 6. If communicating across cultures concerns you, listen to Chapter 10. So, kick off your shoes, sit back, and prepare to pick up a few tips and techniques for becoming the superb communicator you deserve to be. I sincerely hope that you enjoy the journey and benefit from this book. Tip. 5 tips for speaking face-to-face. Engage with your eyes. Your eyes reveal your thoughts, attitudes, and beliefs. Where you look when you're speaking and listening reveals how you feel about the subject or person you are engaging with. Speak clearly. If you want your listener to understand what you're saying, know what you want to say before you open your mouth. Then, when you're clear about what you want to say, make sure that you can be understood. Listen with willingness. Whether at work or at home, listening with the desire to understand is critical to effective communication. Relay what you hear. When you demonstrate that you've heard what people have said and mean, they're willing to walk across hot coals for you. Restating or paraphrasing what you hear shows that you grasp their picture and get their message. Pay attention to body language. Hesitant movements, hunched shoulders, and a drooping head indicate subservience, doubt, and insecurity, whereas touching, expansive gestures, and a radiant smile indicate dominance and say, "I'm in control." Web extras. Visit dummies.com for free access to great For Dummies content online. Chapter 1. Looking at the finer points of great communication. In this chapter, communicating with your whole self, seeking clarity at all times, treating other people with respect, dealing with awkward situations. You're always communicating. Whether you're dozing by the fireplace on a chilly winter night, praising your children for their successes at school, or admonishing an employee for showing up late for work, you're continuously sending out messages through your words, voice, and body. Sometimes your communications are crystal clear, such as when your eyes are sparkling, your mouth is in a full-blown smile, and you're holding your arms out wide, ready to embrace a returning loved one. But at other times, you can convey an unintended message, such as appearing sad, angry, or despondent, when, in fact, you're simply considering how to respond to a challenging situation. As a result, taking a level of control about how and what you communicate is vitally important in your personal and business lives. In this chapter, you discover the fundamental points for communicating like a pro, which involve using more than just your mouth and the words you say. I guide you through preparing yourself mentally for conveying your messages clearly and connecting with others who have different points of view from yours. You also have a quick glance into the value of treating other people with respect and taking the time to listen to what someone else has to say before coming in with your own opinion. In addition, I provide a series of steps for handling difficult situations. Using your whole body to communicate. Great communicators aim to understand others before making themselves understood. They grasp not only what people are saying through their spoken words, but also recognize what others, and themselves, convey through body language, emotional responses, and vocal quality. If you take one message from this book, and I hope you find many, many more, remember that conveying information involves all aspects of your personality, your mind, your eyes and ears, as well as your mouth and facial expressions, and how you stand, gesture, and move your entire body. Getting into the right frame of mind. By getting into the right frame of mind, I mean ensuring that you have a good attitude, and so let go of negative thoughts and beliefs that serve as barriers to accomplished communication. Ditch judgment and blame, and think about how you want the conversation to proceed. In Chapter 6, you find suggestions for checking your attitude. Negative thoughts and beliefs that may hamper communication include finding fault with the other person, disparaging other people's ideas, belittling individuals' beliefs, ridiculing someone else's point of view. Remember, knowing what you want to achieve and being open to hearing what the other person has to say are the foundations for great communication. If the old saying, "energy follows thought," is true, whatever you focus on achieving in a conversation is what you can achieve. When you approach communication free of murky thoughts, you can let your linguistic wizardry steer you towards free and open relationships. Tip: entering a dialogue with an optimistic focus heightens your chances of communicating successfully. Putting your eyes and ears to work. The best communicators have a keen sense of observation, paying attention to what they see and hear, keeping their perception antennae tuned and registering what they observe. They gauge accurately their surroundings and people's behavior, noting the mundane, the extraordinary, and points in between. Here are some suggestions for improving your observational skills. Tip: make eye contact with people you see, whether you know them or not, and observe how they respond. If they look back at you, they're signaling that they noticed you and are observing in return. Be careful not to stare, however, because your interest may be misinterpreted by the other person. Watch for how people move their bodies. You can tell if people are willing and want to engage with you or not by the way they move in your direction or pull away. Observe whether people are lethargic or energetic. Listen for the words they use and the pitch, pace, and tone of their voices. These telltale signs often reveal more about people than what they say about themselves. Open your peripheral vision and take in a panoramic view of your surroundings. Let your brain receive and release ordinary things to avoid excess analysis. Eliminate distractions when you're at work or interacting with others. Putting away your electronic devices when you're with others enables you to notice what's going on around you and so engage in more effective communication. Communicating with clarity. Take a moment and consider just how often you communicate with people throughout your day and the importance of getting across your messages accurately. You write emails and use social media, the subject of Chapter 11. You speak on the phone. You compose formal letters. You participate in face-to-face meetings and debates with friends and colleagues. Your cave-dwelling ancestors only had to grunt, smile, and frown to make themselves understood. Which reminds me, to discover ways of physically speaking more clearly, turn to Chapter 7. Today, the expanding forms and nature of communication put the burden on you to be clear about what you want and then communicate in a candid way so that your aims are clearly understood. Sending a clear message. If you've ever sat through a meeting, presentation, or even a dinner party conversation thinking, "What's this person talking about?" or "What's the message here?" you're not alone. Without exception, every one of my clients shares tales of sitting through confusing meetings and presentations that are time-wasting experiences. To send a clear message, you need a clear, concise idea of what you want to accomplish. As I describe in the later section, being clear about your goals, needs, and preferences. Although this core idea is what you want your listener to remember, you then need to back it up with lucid suggestions and unambiguous, structured, and logical recommendations that your listener can grasp. In addition, you have to persuade others to buy into your message. Getting people to invest personally in your idea requires a bit more thought. The next time you're sending a message to your team, boss, or any stakeholder, create a story that provides both a logical and an emotional rationale for people to come on board. This approach is an essential way to gain buy-in because you're ringing the bells of people who, like you, can benefit from your ideas and recommendations. People tend to buy on feelings and justify with facts, so by appealing to both their emotions and their intellect, you're onto a winner. As you're planning your message, think about your audience and what the individuals care about most. Make sure that you include the type of information expected by the other person, which for some may be facts and hard data, while others prefer subjective opinions and feelings. Crunch the numbers, gather your facts, and analyze how your findings support the core idea. Ensure that you supply only the necessary information to avoid boring or confusing your listeners. By sending a clear, concise, and well-substantiated message, you stand a good chance of having your ideas accepted and acted upon. In Chapter 2, you can find lots of tips for sending clear messages. Providing feedback. As part of making sure that you're understood at work, and in order to enhance people's growth and development and improve their performance at work or at home, provide them with feedback. Given correctly, feedback can improve morale, avoid dispiriting misunderstandings, and reduce confusion around expectations and performance. Business savvy. Appropriate feedback can help others improve the quality of their work and boost your interpersonal relationships with your employees. Remember, you can provide two kinds of feedback: positive feedback to reinforce desired behavior, constructive feedback to address areas that need improving. Both forms of feedback are useful for improving and maintaining quality performance. Providing positive feedback. The following steps and example statements are a guide for offering positive feedback. 1. Describe the positive behavior. I thought you did a great job at the client meeting. You asked a lot of valuable open-ended questions to understand the client's needs and concerns and expressed interest in the issues they're facing. 2. Explain why the behavior is positive. You treated the client with a lot of respect, and the way you built rapport through discovering similarities between you and them led to them opening up and offering us information we didn't have before. This added data can help us design a winning proposal. 3. Thank and encourage the individual. I want to thank you for your efforts. As long as you continue approaching clients in this way, you're going to have great success in this business. Giving constructive feedback. People frequently shy away from providing constructive feedback because they're concerned about upsetting the other person. That's not surprising, because this type of feedback usually focuses on what people did wrong or could do better, instead of what they did well. If feedback is not constructive, the message won't be received, or may even be perceived as an insult. The difference between criticizing and providing constructive feedback is in the intention and the way the feedback is delivered. Constructive feedback provides information about performance and behavior based on objective standards. Delivered properly, recipients feel positive about themselves and their work. Criticism tends to be personal and subjective. For example, if you were to say, "Your presentation was a mess. Your content was a jumble of unrelated points, impossible to follow, and no one could hear what you were saying," you would be criticizing without offering any constructive comments. Instead, you could say, "You had a lot of information in your presentation, some of which was difficult to follow because the points seemed unrelated. In addition, your voice was hard to hear. The next time, I suggest you structure your content in related groups and practice in the room where you'll be presenting to make sure the people in the back row can hear you." Constructive feedback aids the person receiving the information, while criticizing only points out what's wrong without offering concrete advice on how to improve. The purpose of constructive feedback is to provide as clearly and accurately as possible encouragement, support, corrective measures, direction. The following guidelines help you provide constructive feedback at work so that it has value for the recipient and for your organization. Business savvy. 1. State the purpose of your feedback. Briefly say what you want to cover and the reasons why it's important. If you're initiating the feedback, explain that you'd like to offer some feedback and make sure the feedback topic means that they don't have to guess what you want to talk about. If the other person has asked you to provide feedback, a focusing statement makes sure that you're addressing the expressed need. You can start off the feedback session with statements such as, "I'm concerned about." You need to know that. "I want to discuss." "I have some concerns about." "I noticed that when you." "I was pleased to observe that you." Feedback is frequently offered to help improve performance, but it's also useful for reinforcing positive behavior. 2. Relate what you specifically observed. Have in mind a certain event or behavior that you can address, including when and where it happened, who was involved, and what resulted. Stick to your own personal observations and don't speak for others. Avoid generalities such as always, usually, and never. For example, perhaps say, "At yesterday's marketing meeting, I noticed that you raised your voice when you were speaking to Robert." 3. Describe your reactions. Tell the other person what consequences they can expect as a result of their behavior and how you feel about it. Give examples of how the actions affected you and others, such as, "The support team looked embarrassed, and I felt uncomfortable when you shouted and denigrated their efforts. Name-calling and shouting are unacceptable behavior in this office." By describing your reactions to the behavior and the potential consequences, people understand how their behavior impacts on individuals and the organization. 4. Allow the other person to respond. After you've spoken, remain silent and look the other person in the eye. This behavior indicates that you're waiting for a response. If the other person remains silent, you can elicit a response by asking an open-ended question, such as, "What do you think?" "How do you view this situation?" "What's your reaction to my comments?" "Tell me your thoughts about this." 5. Provide specific suggestions. Offer practical, viable, and reasonable examples that can help people improve their performance. When you give suggestions, you're showing that you've moved on from your evaluations and are looking to improve the situation. No matter how well people are performing, they can benefit from further ideas to do even better. Only offer an idea, however, if you think the other person is going to benefit and find it useful. For example, you can say, "Kelly, rather than telling Michael that you're not interested in the details of his proposal, you can ask him about his ideas that most interest you." 6. Summarize and express your support. Go over the major points you discussed and summarize the action items to lead to improved performance. Focus on what the other person can do differently in the future and finish up on a positive, encouraging note by expressing your confidence in the person's ability to improve the situation. For example, "As I said, the group looks up to you and feels confused and upset when you speak to them harshly. I know that you want to create a positive atmosphere among the new members of staff, and I have confidence in your ability to create a happy and productive environment." By summarizing, you can check that your communication is clear and avoid misunderstandings. In addition, by showing your support at the
Sample complete. Ready to continue?